nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feeling so long to keep. Baby, get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice it's talking forward. But only when got me back, just sliding got me. I didn't think it ever come to a
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamarijuana. It's a gorgeous day in the East Kootenays today, blue skies, and it's going to be over 30 degrees out here. Stifling hot, but I'm loving every minute of it. Hope you guys have all had a great week. My guest this week has been an activist for quite a long time. She was the former director of the Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policies, the outreach director for Women Grow. She's also involved with the Green Market in Toronto and had involvement with dispensaries, and Lisa Campbell is extraordinary. So welcome, Lisa. Good morning.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Tamarijuana.
Well, thanks for coming on. I think I met you, must be about almost 7 years ago now. You came to my farm. We built a goat pen. It was, 420, because you were working in Fort Mac.
Yeah, I was up in Fort McMurray, and I didn't have anyone to celebrate 420 with, so I remember looking around for other Alberta activists, and yeah, it was a great pilgrimage to meet all your chihuahuas and see your plants, and yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah, I had my garden back then, and it was growing quite well. You've been out in the East Kootenays I guess not East Kootenay, you were out in the West Kootenay more the last week looking at gardens and out touring across Canada. You coming out and back and forth. What are you up to right now?
Well, right now I'm just having a peaceful morning in Maple Ridge, but it's been a whirlwind of an adventure. I'm on the road with Tanya, formerly from Queens of Cannabis, so we've been kind of visiting activists along the way. Unfortunately, we didn't get all the way to the East Kootenays, but we did get to visit Grand Forks, Teresa and Brian Taylor, the former marijuana mayor of Grand Forks. So we got to hang out with them and kind of learn about the dispensary scene in the Kootenays and all the craft cannabis producers that are fighting to be included in legalization.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest fights for the cannabis community right now is the crafting industry and, dispensaries as well, with good grief with all the busts in Toronto. That's just been disheartening.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even in the last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, but Canna Clinic getting raided, and they had multiple locations raided across the country, not just in Toronto. There was raids in Vancouver as well, on rural properties. So I think everyone is, a little bit on edge across the country, not just in Toronto, to see how far these raids will go, and if we can actually get the government to listen to us, to show that there is an existing industry that's robust and deserves to be included in legalization. Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that we really have to start pushing for again. We thought with legalization coming around the corner that maybe, the fight was over, but with them excluding everybody that has forefronted in the industry, it's basically leaving us right back on with boots, laced up and on the ground again. Which, I'm tired. I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sick of being criminalized, and you'd think that as we got closer to legalization that, our community could be less afraid and could start planning and moving forward with our businesses. But instead, it's been very exclusionary and not including people who have experience in the existing industry. So what we're trying to fight for, across Canada is that people who have been in this industry for 20 plus years still deserve a piece of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So you're originally you're out in Maple Ridge right now, but you actually live in Toronto. And what's going on with that? Yeah, you got the green market and stuff going on out there too. So let's maybe go back to, I don't know, Canadian students. What kind of brought you into the movement?
A lot of things. I've been a cannabis consumer for probably over 15 years. So I've always been kind of involved going to the marches like 420. We had Freedom Festival in Toronto, which, had multiple stages at one point and, speakers. So, all through my youth, I've been inspired by that movement. In terms of how I got into cannabis more was through harm reduction and drug policy. So my background is working in harm reduction with youth organizations. So teaching young people about drugs. Through that, I got involved more in drug policy through Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy. And that kind of put us more in touch with the cannabis side of things. So it's always been a dream of mine to kind of get more involved in legalizing cannabis, more than just going to a rally. So through CSSDP, I kind of got the opportunity to be in touch with other leaders in the space that were young people. Through Students for Sensible Drug Policy in the States, there's a huge network of activists that have started things like ArcView Group and, New Frontier Foundation. All these different kind of cannabis leaders in the space have come out of SSDP. So I think for us up north, as students, seeing legalization on the horizon was really exciting for a lot of students, and we wanted to get more involved. So yeah, I think it was like CSSDP that kind of made me go full cannabis. Before everyone was tiptoeing around it, and we all wanted legalization to happen, but ever since the federal election too, which we were both really involved in, everything is kind of changing and there's more hope. So yeah, I think as we got closer to legalization, that's kind of where I tipped and pivoted towards cannabis. So now I don't have to worry about. Before my old jobs, I'd be, giving people harm reduction supplies like needles and crack kits and those things. So now I can just, give someone an edible instead, which to me is also harm reduction.
Yes, absolutely.
So through Green Market, that's what we've been trying to do to provide access. Is even though we're so close to legalization and we've had Supreme Court rulings that say we should be able to access cannabis in all of its forms, we still don't have access. So we've been throwing these kind of activist farmers markets where in Toronto and other cities like Victoria and Windsor and Montreal, people can go to these markets. And even though we don't have legalization yet, 2 years after Trudeau was elected, at least people can have access and a space to share their craft products as well. So those have been really popular in Toronto. We've had at some of our events, over 1,000 people come out to 10,000 square foot warehouse spaces where they can try all different edible creations and topicals. And so we're trying to usher in legalization and kind of create spaces for community to exist while we're resisting the corporate forces.
Right. And I think that's the thing, these corporate licensed producers, again, they have everything, for everybody has their place, I guess, in the industry. But they're not offering cookies, and they're not offering edibles, and they're not offering, even some of them aren't even offering the RSO yet. So that's something that, these crafting and smaller mom and pop bakeries and patients have been, able to do as well, right? Keep that kind of going and educating people, because I think that's the biggest thing we have to kind of move forward with, is educating the general population that cannabis is not as harmful as even alcohol. And, with these green markets, I think that's a terrific way of getting it out to the, general population, that they can come out and try it without having to be scrutinized for doing that. And stigma, right?
We get a lot of new consumers too, or consumers who have smoked pot before, and, they're maybe boomers or seniors, and they've never had access to all the different types of cannabis or to know what a dose is in a chocolate bar. I think like the old derivatives market, it's like nothing was really lab tested. You didn't know your dose. So we're also trying to kind of professionalize the industry so it's more accessible to new consumers, and create like a welcoming environment where people can ask questions about the products. And I find like a lot of cannabis events, it's kind of like this elitism thing where everyone's trying to be like the best at weed. Our events, it's more for noobs, where people can ask questions and they don't necessarily need to know everything about dabs or to have even ever done a dab before. So I think it's cool to kind of open it up and normalize cannabis in that way.
Absolutely. Well, look at how far it's come since even we first met. Like I was growing my own. You had just barely gotten to a dispensary. You had, vape pen. I didn't even have a vape pen. Even like the technology for products and the technology for instruments and medical devices have changed and progressed. Like rosin, 10 years ago, we didn't have rosin. You know what I mean? Like, so everything has progressed in the last 10 years so far, yet we're still here,
Yeah, that's why it's cool to come back to BC, because in British Columbia, you guys are so ahead of us from where we are in Ontario. And I think there are pros and cons to regulation. And, obviously not every single dispensary has been regulated in Vancouver. And but it's hope for us back home. So being here is like paradise in terms of products, technology. We just got a tour yesterday of the Toco facility, and the level of scientific quality assurance is at the same level as any licensed producer. So for the government to say, "Oh, this existing industry, which is partnered with universities and doing all this research, doesn't deserve to be included," is ridiculous. They'll just move to other countries to do their business. Yeah. So I think that Canada needs to embrace our innovation more. We're really trying to show that innovation off through Green Market. Products from across the country, local products, local bakers, vegan, gluten-free options. The majority of our products aren't available federally, legally through the ACMPR. So we think we have a legal argument to exist because, patients still don't have access all these years later. All these court decisions later. So we're trying to bring a little bit of BC to Ontario.
Well, Vancouver, let's put it this way. Even like, I think you would have found when you were out in Grand Forks too, Teresa, having issues with running a legal dispensary out there was shut down. Like she was like, poof, and I'm in the same situation here. They're not allowing it. They've regulated them. Nelson's doing some variances with their licensing right now. As well. Kimberly, on the other hand, has got 2 dispensaries. They've shut the third one out. They will not allow the third business license to go through. So if Vancouver is a kind of a bubblish area where you kind of feel like, yay, I'm in, BC is not all like that, hon. I wish it was. I wish I could tell you, come out here and I could run you through the facility, and there's nothing. It's a vast kind of like, coronation, nothing. And it's really frustrating because we do have patients here with need. And they're having to drive to Kimberley, which from here is, a 25-minute drive. And if you're disabled with a scooter and don't have wheels, you're not getting to that dispensary, right? So that being said, like there's a lot of work still left to be done.
Yeah, and like I wonder for Ontario, we've got all these smaller rural communities, and what would dispensary access look like in those municipalities? Like, would a conservative Ontario town approve a dispensary ever, even post-legalization? So
that's where you're at. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah,
to be able to bylaw that right out. Like, that's why everybody has to be working in their municipality right now really hard, because it's the municipalities are going to shut growing. Like, even the 4 plant, like they could even actually like bylaw so that you can't even grow your 4 plants in your yard if they want to. Like, I'm not saying that they will. But it's a possibility that your municipality could say, no, we're not allowing any growing. We don't care what the federal government says. Bylaw says this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think in communities that have had kind of a robust industry pre-legalization, there's that danger of the stigma as well, of people being like, well, we don't want this in our town anymore. So there's still a huge fight ahead. in BC, Ontario, across Canada.
Oh yeah, Alberta.
Yeah. In the meantime, we're just trying to fill in the gaps with farmers markets, obviously online dispensaries as well. As like when I was living up in Fort McMurray, I would order from websites and have access to all the edibles in BC, right in Alberta.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, there's lots of options for access, and I think you need to have all the options available, especially for patients, because even in legalization in 2017, where we have federal legalization of medical marijuana, I still meet patients who have recently been diagnosed with cancer, brain tumors, who have a short amount of time to live, and they still can't get access to legal medical marijuana. So, that's why the courts have always been on our side in providing access, and that's why we'll continue to provide access.
Right. And it's the doctors, though, too, right? Like a lot of these patients that are diagnosed with these, afflictions, their doctor will stop them. So they still have to gain access, not possibly, authorized access because the doctors aren't on board. But like I said, with, research moving forward, hopefully those doctors will start coming around and signing those. But then again, too, we also have to worry about the federal government saying within 5 years our program may change again. And that's almost disheartening as well, because I know there's patients out there that would not be able to exist with a 4-plant license or 4-plant grow. That just would not be possible for what they need.
Yeah, no, 4 plants is crazy. Like you pop 4 seeds, and what if you get a few males, So I think like anyone who grows knows that you need to pop more than 4 seeds to get, to have your genetic selection. People need to have access, or people need to be able to have their own mothers and their own clones, and, be able to trade genetics with their neighbors. Like you have this kind of robust existing craft industry, so why not find ways to legalize it instead of penalizing consumers and communities?
Exactly. Well, it kind of brings you right back to where we were 10 years ago. Prohibition, like people are saying 2.0, right? Like harsher penalties for other things, and maybe being able to hold, and possess 30 grams. But in hindsight, that's just an ounce. And we all know that an ounce of cannabis really only makes about a gram of extraction, or maybe 2, depending on the quality. But in hindsight, that's sometimes not enough for some people either, if they're using edibles and caps and different forms of consumption.
Also with the seeds, I think each seed is equivalent to a gram for possession. So say you have like a few plants, and then by accident one of them goes to seed, all of a sudden you're over your possession limit because of pollen.
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that ridiculous? That's ridiculous. Yeah. Hey, hon, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk more about all kinds of different things within the forms of legalization coming forward with Lisa Campbell. I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, Mom Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, the 420 Hideaway Orchard, B&B, 420 B&B, the Haley Rose Foundation, Remos Nutrients, and our song's going to be Pass That Joint by the Royal Kush. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
friend, tonight I want to live a little again. And I'll get straight to the point, and I won't pretend. Tonight I want to live a little again. My girl wanted drinks from the liquor store. Who am I to argue with that type of request? I lit up a crooked cigarette. I jumped in the car. I took off a little too fast. Blue lights flashing. I think I might need bail. Should've seen my face when Johnny Law was my cousin Phil. And guess what he said? Pass me that joint, my friend. Tonight I want to live a little again. And I'll get straight to the point, and I won't pretend. Tonight I want to live a little again. All my friends at the bar with their drink of choice. I recline my lazy boy with like 15 joints, and I'ma blaze everyone just to make my point. No hangover, just some papes to anoint. I went and got my permit, now I'm not a hermit. I break up the marijuana, roll it up perfect. Might be the blue dream, might be the purpose. Guaranteed to get you lifted, blasted off the earth quick.
We are back with Lisa Campbell. We were just talking over the break about a few polls and stuff that are coming in Ontario, and looking like initial polling came in at 52.5% of Ontarians prefer having marijuana sold through private retailers as opposed to LCBOs. So that's a good thing, eh, Lisa?
Yeah, no, we're really excited about that. So through the Cannabis Friendly Business Association, we've been working on Ontario to try and crack one of the hardest provinces in Canada for cannabis. And there still is a huge amount of support for dispensaries in Ontario. Before we had the Project Claudia raids, we had 75% support of dispensaries. So, we're just trying to show the public that dispensaries deserve to be a part of legalization, and it shouldn't just be the government selling pot next year.
Have I been reading right that there's actually a tweed outlet in Toronto?
Well, there's a few Tweed Main Street locations. So, do you remember MedCan Access? I don't know if you remember. So,
yeah, I do.
In Ontario, a few of the dispensaries basically closed and came together to form a patient resource center when the MMPR was just starting. I think it was around 2013, 2014. So they formed MedCan Access. They were trying to be a licensed producer, but because of charges from previous dispensary raids, their application wasn't able to go through. Instead, they were almost acquired by Peace Naturals Project, which turned into a crazy lawsuit, and then they ended up being acquired by Tweed. So all those MedCan Access locations, there was one in Hamilton, Etobicoke, I think Hamilton, Guelph, different places. Those all
Barrie,
became
Ontario. I was saying Barrie too.
Yeah, Barrie as well. So, they have these kind of patient resource centers. They're not allowed to sell cannabis in the stores, but they definitely want to be distributing through those locations if they're allowed to by the government. But I think Tweed as a company isn't allowed to necessarily be like, boo, LCBO, because whatever the government decides on distribution, they're going to have to comply with. So, whether it's Tweed Main Street locations or selling cannabis through lounges or through the LCBO, they'll do whatever it takes to get their product to consumers. But yeah, it definitely freaks out a bunch of people because in Ontario we have the beer store, which is kind of the private ogliopoly version of our government store for alcohol. So at the beer store, it's a few big beer companies that own it. And that's our version of private retail for alcohol. So everyone's scared that Tweed Main Street will be the future beer store, especially since now if you go to Tweed's website online, Main Street is the web portal that you can buy multiple brands of cannabis from. So not necessarily just Tweed weed, but Tweed, Bedrocan, whatever other companies they're streaming through that. So I think in the future, Main Street isn't going to be the type of cannabis you buy. It's going to be, the online store that you get it in, or potentially a storefront. But, no one knows how that's going to play out in Ontario. Everyone's guessing.
And it's basically like the canopy growth kind of umbrella where they've all kind of come together to do this, right? Kind of thing. Yeah,
which, I mean, in some ways is kind of powerful for folks in Ontario to say, our former dispensaries banded together and now are, a national distribution platform for all these cannabis brands. I think that's every dispensary's dream. But because it's Canopy Growth Corp, a lot of people are, not at all impressed by that and are very threatened by the Main Street locations. But to me, it's people from our community that are still distributing cannabis. So, people like Blaine from iHuman and Adam Greenblatt from Sante Cannabis, who's worked in, some of the biggest not biggest dispensaries, but he's been working in Montreal dispensaries way longer than I have.
Adam, yeah. I met Adam back in 2000 and I think it was 10 or 11. And he was the first dispensary card I ever got. Like when I first got my license, that was the first, and they would mail order me out to Alberta, right? He's the only one that I really trusted back then. So, again, with working within our community, trying to work within the industry, it kind of, it draws some lines, but, you have to look at it as a positive thing, I guess, in some aspects of it, because we still have our voices maybe still in their heads. And that's what I kind of look at it being like, with some of our community getting into these licensed productions, I just hope and pray that our voices are still in their heads. That's all I can say about that.
I think everyone deserves to be a licensed producer in Canada, and licensed producer has become a dirty word because traditionally our industry has been excluded from licensing, but it's not a bad thing to be licensed, and hopefully we can push for a diversity of licensing, including retail, including there's a rumor that the licensed dealer license will be for edible production and other derivative products. So, as more and more people get licensed, I think it will become less of a dirty word. But, for small producers that are growing outdoor, small craft batches, the government's kind of overregulated system doesn't line up with reality.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm kind of concerned, if you're a patient, you have an authorization to grow your licensed production site as it is, because you're licensed, you're still licensed in producing, right? So if you want to look at it that way in the wording of it all, that means that every patient out there that has plants, it would be a licensed producer. And that's where I think we're going to have to really push with the government to make them understand that you got two different separate tiers here. And you have licensed producers in a small end, which would be the crafting industry, and allow the bigger ones. It's no different than small brewing companies. But I just hope that the difference in decipherations, it doesn't take that long to get us through, right? And I think that's where a lot of people are in fear, because as far as I'm concerned, the plant count that we have sustains us but also could sustain others, right? Or, even a co-op where you have production sites with other patients working within, that area, co-opting together. There's a huge, vast difference of ways of doing things. And I think taking the corporate has taken us to a new level where I think a lot of people are fearful that they're not going to be able to get into the industry. I know even the 2 dispensaries that are out in Kimberley, the one dispensary owner said to me, she goes, how do you see things? I'm a bit scared that this new, legalization is not going to allow us to continue running. And I said, I think because we're in BC, and it will ultimately, kind of kick back to the province or the municipality. Since you're already licensed in Kimberley, I don't think you have much to be afraid of. But then on the other side of it, if the feds come in and say, look, we're not having any storefronts, everybody's got to go. Where's that going to leave all these small businesses? Because they are businesses, no matter how you slice it. And even with these variances, does the city tell, the hairdresser that she can't do this and she can't sell that, and she can't do this and that, but yet they will go to a dispensary owner and make different variances for that business. And I don't think that's overall, good either, because it's healthcare, natural health resources. Same laws or same regulations should apply to them as do a health food store. So there's a lot of, like I said, again, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I think it's so hard because you have this existing craft industry, but according to our past MMAR laws, I think what the government has issue with is diversion, and they're freaking out about it. The fact that people are licensed to produce, which is great, but then these unregulated products are being distributed and sold, and they think it's this giant profit industry. They don't see kind of the nonprofit, small craft side of it. So what we're trying to do with government is just explain to them that these aren't fucking gangsters in the Kootenays, making brownies.
No.
It's literally small craft mom and pop. So, meeting women like Teresa Taylor. Hopefully we're also going to be going to the island to visit Lisa Campbell from the Craft Cannabis campaign as well, to just, come together across Canada to show that we are a craft industry, and, that this industry is supporting people in small towns that don't have access to employment. It's supporting families. It's supporting single mothers. But instead of being included, our government is sending Child and Family Services to knock down their door and, and further penalize.
Yes, to come and confiscate my candy. In reality, that's when I make a batch of candy, I make less than 100 candies. But that's oh my God, she's got a factory running. That's not the case.
I think that's why we have to come together to professionalize, though, in that, mom and pop kitchens, we have conservative politicians that are oh, we can't have cannabis in the kitchen with little Johnny. And, as parents, obviously, people in our industry are responsible. Even in home kitchen scenarios, everything is well labeled. Little Johnny or whoever it is knows not to eat mommy and daddy's medicine, or mommy and mummy, or whoever it is. So, as communities, we are responsible, but doing things like you were saying before about creating co-ops, or creating standards for quality. For Green Market, one of the standards that we've all agreed on is everyone needs to have their food handler certificate, and all the inputs that are going into the cannabis or into the product need to be lab tested. So if we can think of in advance the problems that our conservative neighbors will have with our industry, and then we can have co-op spaces where, a single mother can rent out, a few hours in a kitchen and, make all your gummies or make all your brownies and, and have all the stainless steel appliances to go with that. So
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's happening across the country. Even in Montreal, the government is talking about having nonprofit models and having co-ops and nonprofit storefronts. So I think all the work that people like you and people like Boris in Montreal and, have been doing all these years for over 20 years to change the dialogue, it's finally paying off. So no matter how much money the licensed producers spend on public relations, on lobbying, we kind of have a head start in some ways. And yeah, so there's hope for sure.
Well, I've always been hopeful. I mean, we were hopeful in Montreal at the Liberal Convention. We were the first ones there to actually have what was it, a evening of at the the green light, where we had actually Liberal MPs come and actually ask questions and get out the information and the education. They were totally all invited. And we worked really hard that weekend. I mean, we ran our asses off that weekend trying to get the word out to those Liberal MPs and that whole convention. And never mind the work that being in Ontario, going to see our MPs. I mean, like I said, I'm tired. I just wish that somehow this would just kind of like all fall into place and we could just go kick our feet up and, grow and be happy. And yeah, it's a pipe dream. I know.
Well, you guys have the advantage in British Columbia and that you have this new NDP government with the Greens as the swing vote. So I know that the NDP traditionally has supported unions and potentially liquor stores, but I think this is an opportunity for BC to step up and kind of make a plan ahead, or maybe a better plan than the other provinces. It's like, if we can have the best legalization here in BC, then maybe in 5 years Ontario can catch up and have access to the craft industry that you guys have here.
I'm hoping that we can forefront this forward, but again, this government that we've got may not last that long. So we're holding our breath still out here. I mean, I know in this area for sure. This area did not vote NDP. They voted for the Liberals because it's a very industrial area of the province. Like, we have mines and logging and everything. That's the only thing industry that they've got out here. So I know a lot of people out here aren't very happy about the new government because of the fact that they're worried about their jobs, and because the NDP really hasn't talked much about cannabis policy at all, or the Greens. We really don't know where we're sitting out here. But that's like I said, this here. I know in Vancouver, people are just elated. They're thrilled, and on the island, everybody's hooping it up and stuff. But out here, people are not doing that. People are scared. Houses. Let's put it this way: there's 4 houses on my block alone that are for sale, because people are, waiting for the other shoe to drop because they're waiting for the mines to close. So, and nobody's saying, okay, well, let's open up, the empty warehouses that are already sitting empty here and open a licensed production. Darkar, I think it is, has been trying to get a licensed production license for this town for the last going on 4 years. They've just gotten their security clearance and they haven't even got the building up yet. So, and that's only going to be 200 jobs. That's not going to help the 4,000 that are going to get dried up here. So that being said, let's hope that they do something that's going to be positive for everybody.
Yeah, that's the hard thing is, will it work for everyone? And it probably won't work for everyone, but we can keep on fighting because the legalization that we get on July 1st, 2018 is not going to be what we're fighting for. So
no, and even if we get there, like that's the question too. Like, are we going to get that legislation at that time? Because we're on third reading now. They're in summer session. They're going to come back, and it's still got to go through the Senate. That takes that takes quite a bit of time. So I think people are expecting, and it might not happen.
Yeah, no, it's going to take a lot of time. But I think in August in Ontario, I know we have a deadline where we get to submit to the province what our ideal distribution system will be. So. There's a few opportunities coming up to submit feedback provincially, and now is the time for everyone to be contacting their MLAs, their members of provincial parliament, to kind of let them know what you want distribution to look like, because they definitely don't have a clue what they're doing and they need our help.
That's true. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. And we'll come back and talk more about what's going to happen or how we feel things are going to look like in a few minutes. So, Maca B, Medical Marijuana Card, is our song. And again, I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners, Haley Rose Foundation, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, the Hideaway 420 BNB, United Cannabis Coalition, and we'll be back in a minute.
Important meal of the day. What's the matter? There's no prize in here. What? Well, that's just lame. I hate that. I remember in the 70s, there was a prize in each and every cereal box.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You know what? I've solved that problem.
How'd you do that?
With this. The Supercharged Kit. Brand new from Rainbow Nutrients. Each and every Supercharged Kit contains 1 liter Grow, Blue, Micro, Velo Kelp, Magnifical, Astro Flower, and Nature's Candy. You also get a shot glass, a syringe so you can accurately measure your nutrients, a sticker, a feed chart, and A prize in every box.
Oh, yeah!
What'd you get?
I got a Remo Nutrients lighter leash.
Sweet. Hey, Mikey, he likes it.
Hey, I got keys in my Supercharged kit.
I think those are mine. The Supercharged Kit is available at your favorite hydroponic retailer. Get yours today.
This is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The other day I was in California, Me and my brethren a drive on the highway when some police come our way and said, pull over on the hard shoulder. The officer said to my brethren, do you have any marijuana in the car? My brethren said, yes officer, I do. I have an ounce or two. Then he showed the officer a card and the officer said, okay, be on your way and have a good day. Me said to my brethren, what kind of card that? You a diplomat? Him said, no, Maccabee, it's me medical marijuana card for me asthma. You see, as soon as me reach back in England, me go to the doctor. Me said, doctor, give me the card like the doctor, them abroad. Me say me want a medical marijuana card. All the medicine we hold in a high regard. Me say me want a medical marijuana card. Me say it good for the asthma, multiple sclerosis, and it good for the cancer. Good for migraine and it good for glaucoma. Good pain reliever and the stress of myeloma. Well anyway, me say me go at the doctor. Me tell him about the medical marijuana. Me tell him about the card in California. Them have it in America or coming on ya. Well anyway, doc, you see me I get older, and me find me have a little pain in my shoulder. It helps me massage it and go to the sauna. Another pain reliever is the marijuana. You know say I no lie, doc, you know me I no faker. Just give me the card, doctor, give me the paper. Only this morning me get this headache, Me need some medicine from Jamaica. Just give me the card like the doctor, them abroad. Me say me want a medical marijuana card. Had the medicine we hold in a high regard. Me say we want a medical marijuana card. Me tell him about my affliction. Then he get the pen and him a write the prescription. Don't give me no pill, doctor, that is addiction. Me really want the herb, but me no want the conviction. The doctor tell me say him know the herb or the cure, man. We have some in the chemist, but don't tell no one. Don't feel no way, doc, I don't want your one. Me have me wanna come from Westmoreland. So just give me the card like the doctor, them abroad. Me say me want me medical marijuana card. Had the medicine we hold in a high regard. Me say me want me medical. Well, I'm not joking. Come marijuana's not just for smoking. Had the real medicine for we. You can smoke it, eat it, rub it, or drink it as tea. Ooh-wee. People not taking it just for the thrill. Them prescribe marijuana for the terminally ill. Good for the stress, man, it help you for chill. Drink it or you smoke it, man, you take it as you will. Pharmaceuticals, them not like that still. All them want you do is take pill, pill, pill. Then for them pocket just fill, fill, fill. Ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling is what you hear from the till. Me say, give me the card like the doctor, them abroad. Me say we want the medical marijuana card. Had the medicine we hold in a high regard. Me say we want the medical marijuana card. It's in America, why not in a yard? Me say we want the medical marijuana card.
Awesome. And we're back with Lisa. So we've been talking a little bit about legalization, a little bit about the crafting industry, a little bit about this and that, and where we see legalization and such going. And like I said, Toronto's got the green markets, and we've got all these new things that are approaching. We've come so far. I don't know where where you got conferences and stuff coming up that you're going to. I know Lyft has been doing quite a few hemp fests and all kinds of stuff. So, what's your schedule for the next week? What are you up to this week?
This week, we're going to be going to the Cannabis Life Conference in Vancouver. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conference. I've heard from locals that there's actually going to be a lot of licensed producers there, ironically. So we're going to be there along with them. Hopefully we won't get any complaints. I know that, there's been a lot of expos in Toronto this year, and it's always tense for both industries to share the space. And sometimes some people are cool with it, and other times you have situations like, I think it was like this one LP, Emerald, actually called the RCMP on Crop King seeds at one of the expos in Toronto. So,
shut up! Are you kidding me?
Yes,
I never. Oh my God!
They're a BC licensed producer, and it was the Cannabis conference, and basically Crop King and Emerald were put right beside each other, and Crop King had no problem with it, and Emerald was just like, having a brain aneurysm, just like, complaining to all the other licensed producers, like they're complaining to Tweed and also to Emblem, and both Tweed and Emblem were like, so what? So yeah, it's always interesting when you get both sides of the industry together, but I find that it often breaks down the boundaries, and it kind of helps create empathy because we're able to explain our sides a bit better, and we all just want to sell pot. It shouldn't be an illegal thing, or a thing where you're calling the cops on your competition.
No, like that's kind of appalling. Quite honestly, I can't believe they would do something. Well, like I said, we're not dealing with some of the people that run these licensed producers are not from our community. Like, they've never met any of us. They don't want to be a part of our community. They think we're criminals, and they're all wearing business suits, I guess, and they're corporate. And they're different industries that have now come into the cannabis industry, and they don't see things the way we do. And I think that's the barriers that we have to break down, because you got licensed producers that basically are being ran by soccer moms. You know what I mean? And they see it as an industry, which is, money, 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 which I understand. But in hindsight, they don't see us the way they don't see us. They don't see us as consumers.
I think like not all licensed producers are the same. Like, there are some licensed producers that are from the MMAR and, are patients or families and caregivers. So it totally depends on the licensed producers, but definitely I think in terms of leadership, you have a lot of people from like the finance sector or tech or different things, like the corporate industries, who are on the boards of these companies, and they're not necessarily compassionate or understand the huge industry that is the reason why they even exist. Like, if it wasn't for dispensaries, if it wasn't for bakers pushing for legalization, then or companies like Crop Kings, fundraising and supporting 420. Patients. Bottom line, if it wasn't for patients that pushed the court system to give us the MMAR to begin with, Section 56s, none of us would have anything. You know what I mean? And I don't think anybody looks back at the fact that there was people, and bottom end, it was sick people that got this off the board. I mean, sure, legalization. We got legalization activists that have been fighting for the legalized market for many, many years too, but it wasn't until the patients went to the court and said, "Hey, we need access. We want authorization." And this is the kicker: when you get a prescription from your doctor and you send that into Health Canada doesn't recognize that as a prescription. It's an authorization. So again, it's all in optic and wording, and it leaves the patient authorized to do this, but in reality, not with a prescription, because then they'd have to give it a DIN number. And I think that's something, and with Health Canada telling you, well, sorry, you haven't got your license in 50 weeks. Phone your MLA, which I have an appointment on July the 11th for, because Alvin and I still are sitting with our, applications in our hands and our signature, but no paperwork. And I think Al told me, or I seen something on Al's posting, that he finally just got his. And it was 19 weeks, I think, that he waited for his license. Wow.
So he has till January. He only has 5 months now to get a garden off the ground. And in hindsight, we know that might not be enough time if you're going from seed, right? And outdoor, he's pooched. He's in Ontario. His seeds can't go in the ground now and expect to be ready to, by the time the snow flies now. So that leaves him again as a patient pooched. And that's not fair when we've got, like I said, licensed production licenses, again, still taking 5 years as well. So something's got to change on this whole forefront of production, licensing, patients' rights, people's rights, human rights, I guess is what you want to, if you want to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. I think as long as the system is unconstitutional and broken, then we have a right to exist, ironically. And that once the system is well running, like say we have rec legalization next year and we're actually to be a system that provided access for everyone, that's when you have the scary thing of like, before we could fight for access in the courts because there was no access. So there's also this like weird scenario as we near legalization where we will have more access, which means that patients might, face a crackdown or not have the same rights as before. So I think we really need to fight to make sure that, that patients are included in legalization because they're the reason we have legalization in the first place. But yeah, it's like when you hear the task force report, there's, they're like, oh, should we have medical marijuana? That's like a question that they ask communities.
I know,
is so
right?
ridiculous.
I know. Like, is it that why we're talking about legalization to begin with? That because we've proven that it's not harmful, that we've proven that alcohol is more harmful, that we've proven that it is a medicine? Like, we don't have the research. How many people will tell you, case study-wise, it helps me? How can you deny the fact that I'm not in a wheelchair because I use cannabis and I'm not taking your pharmaceuticals? How many patients? How many people? And I think that's, even with myself, like, turning around with the doctor. It took me 7 months to get my doctor on board here. And finally, after, trigger point shots and all kinds of crap going on, she finally said, okay. But in hindsight, we shouldn't have to do like I said, the means the way we've had to go about coming to this end of the road, I guess, if you want to put it, has been by, the court system. The government hasn't handed us anything. This legislation, I find, is a more omnibus than anything. Like I said, 14 years for selling to somebody out of the age of 18. The 4-plant count, 100 centimeter. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Of course, it's, we're talking, it's great. It's something that we all fought for. But in the end, in the result, it's going to still be kicked around for, I don't know. Like I said, it's not going to be, I think, what we're all wanting. That's for sure.
Oh, I mean, the bureaucrats that are writing the policies based on their research, they're acting from a really conservative place as government. So what we get right off the bat won't be perfect, and we have to fight to refine it and fight, for it to include patients because we know the existing legislation is making things harder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got some events coming up this next week too, out in Toronto. I think there's a 710 Concentrate Cup that Toronto Pixie Jennifer is the organizer. She'll be on Peace Radio tonight with Al and Kim, I think. That starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time, or I think it is. And so that's Jennifer will be on, Toronto Pixie for the 710 Concentrate Cup this week is coming up. Harvest Fest is coming up here right away next week too as well. There's the great glass gathering in Pemberton this weekend coming up on the island as well. Many of great events that are going on all across the country over the summer, as well as falling into Fall Karma Cups coming up in October. I believe probably Jeff's doing Prairie Harvest Cup again, and that's something that our community all brings us together too. And never mind the Lift Hemp Fest that they're in Edmonton coming up. So there's a lot of stuff. 710, the Grey Area, Melissa up in Edmonton they're having a camp out next month too. So next week I think too. Like there's so many. Like I have a listing and they're all like within this overlapping. It's almost like you can't get to everything that's going on, and that's because this community. I'm not going to call it so much the industry so much, but this community has worked so hard to be able to have these kind of events by grassroots activism, like people that have been working diligently, within their own kitchens, I guess, per se, to actually get the product out, get people to be aware, educating them. And Lisa, you've been very instrumental in doing that over the years. Like I said, I was always been a great pleasure to spend time with you and have you on my show. I really like to thank you for that. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, or what's going on for the night?
Yeah, well, hopefully we're going to be making it out to the Great Canadian Glass Gathering as well next weekend. But in terms of shout outs to my business partner, Sarah Gillies from Green Market. So many times over the last year, it's been petrifying being in Toronto around the Project Claudia raids, Project Gator. It's just continuing pressure from law enforcement. So without Sarah, I wouldn't be here today. I would definitely be scared. And, I think it's really important that we don't stop fighting and that we don't, now when we're so close to legalization, we have to keep on going with our fight. So, well, it can be scary at times and people, are tempted to go underground or just, stop for periods of time. I think now is the time to amp things up and to show what legalization should look like. So yeah, I'm really appreciative of my business partner for making sure that I'm not dropping out of the race and that we keep on going till we have the legalization that we want.
Yeah, and it was hard for you having to, kind of disembark right now and not have the dispensary running for safety purposes, I guess is the best way to looking at it, because Project Claudia was a huge ramp and it doesn't seem to be stopping out there. It doesn't seem to be. And I want everybody to stay safe. I guess that's about the message that, we have to, amongst ourselves, keep your head down, be safe while you're out there helping people, because we all still have to keep helping people. That's one thing that's never going to stop for many of us. It doesn't matter what they do to us, I think.
Yeah, I think the goal is never to be arrested. The goal is to provide access. So for us, all of our events, we want to make sure that our producers are safe and that our consumers are safe and that, it's a safe space for people to access quality products. And I think if we can show that to the government, then there's hope for survival.
Absolutely. So again, I'd like to mention the Harvest Fest Cup, which is coming up July 14th through 16th at Riverdale in Nova Scotia. If you need information about that, you can reach out to Debbie Schultz-Giffen or probably Chris Backer, or just get a hold of Mom on Facebook. Again, I'd like to thank Lisa, and your Toronto beautiful self is in BC, and I'm so thankful to have had you on, because, yeah, you've got so much. We could probably talk for another 3 hours with what's going on, but you've got appointments to be at, and I will let you go. So thanks again, and we'll be hearing you all next week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
You betcha. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not